you have any questions, what I suggest is that you write them down in the chat as we're going along, and then we will pick up at on the questions at the end of the meeting, depending on how many there are. If there are lots and lots and lots of questions, we will almost certainly say, look, you've been listening to all of us enough, and we will actually answer the questions by email. If there are a few questions, we will endeavour to do our very best to answer them at the end of the meeting. So, can I presume, and I hope everybody can see the PowerPoint, which is saying Hereford Community Market Garden. If anybody can't, can you please put that into chat, and one of us will come back to you and say, and try and work it out. Anyway, we're not particularly computer savvy, but we're doing our best. Okay, so first of all, I'm Pat Gordon, and I'm the founder member of GL and a director. And I'm just going to ask now the other 4 people. I've got a feeling Rachel might not be here yet.
She's not,
but
no.
Can you please just introduce yourselves so that everybody knows who we all are? Hello. Louisa.
Hi, I'm Louisa Foti, and I'm the Education Officer for Growing Local and also a Director.
Hello, I'm Heather Percy, and I have been a Director with Growing Local for the last 11 years with Pat.
Hi, I'm Denise Pegram, and I've been an educator with Growing Local for several years.
So I think the only person you're not seeing is Rachel, and hopefully when Rachel comes along and joins the meeting, we'll introduce Rachel. Rachel is our accounts person. So yeah, she holds the purse strings and keeps us all in check. Okay, so we've said about questions, putting those into chat, and you might find it best to minimize your video so that you can see the PowerPoint in all its glory. And as I said, we record this presentation and we will post a link onto our website and in our next newsletter. So first slide, can I just say that I know some of you will be very familiar with what we do, but some of you will know very little or know a little of us, and some of you will know nothing about our activities. So hopefully this will suit everybody in terms of their knowledge base of Growing Local and where we come from. So if I'm going to move on to slide 2, and I'm also going to minimize mine so that, okay. So I'm going to give you a minute just to read through, and then I'll say a little bit more about the history of Growing Local. Okay, so can I just say, Growing Local has always been about bringing our community closer to their food. And for 10 years, we ran a veg box or a veg bag scheme, as well as the education that we've been running throughout the 11 years of our existence. And we call our education, sometimes we call it our Grow, Cook, Eat program. So this evening is a follow-on to a public meeting in January 2020, which we held at the Kindle Centre. Many of you were present. At that meeting, we outlined how we wanted to set up a community market garden on the edge of Hereford. The main drivers to our changes have been the closure of the Pick Your Own business at Court Farm, Tillington. This happened during the winter of 2018. We needed to find another way of connecting our food to our community rather than the veg box scheme. At that point, we were buying in from Court Farm and other growers to distribute and then distribute our food, our veg bags to the community. We also knew that the public could not now, following the closure of Court Farm, access our garden, and for many we were too far away from most of our people. Everyone has to drive or bus, and the bus service is quite poor to Court Farm, Tillington. We started planning the change or our next steps in autumn 2019, and that's when we started looking for land and for an alternative site for our garden. And in January 2020, we had our first public meeting, as we've mentioned. Obviously, 2020 has been a terrible year with the pandemic. And we have done everything we can during this year to continue with pursuing our goal of a community market garden. In autumn 2020, we heard about stronger towns, and Lou will talk about this later. Another big date in our diary is May the 1st of this year, 2021, when the lease at Court Farm finishes. Time is of the essence. We need to move fast. Now, we want to continue with connecting our community to its food through a community market garden. We want to grow our own food with an enhanced schools, family, adult, grow, cook, eat provision. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which shows you a map, and the fields here with the little yellow dots are actually the fields that we have been talking, and we've been in deep discussion with the council, and we're extremely grateful to Herefordshire Council for making this happen. You can see the southern edge of Hereford down here, Newton Farm, Belmont. Here is Belmont Wanderers Football Club's site, and we are adjacent, right next to the football club. This big line running down here is actually the railway, and my cursor is now following the lines footpath and cycle route, which actually then follows and actually ends here where my cursor is sitting now. So just to go into a little bit more close up, as you can see, our proposed fields are approximately 15 to 16 acres, which is a huge area, and hopefully enough to be able to deliver what we want to deliver. I'm sure it will be. Again, you can see Belmont Wanderers Football Club here and their pitches. We have several pitches. And the railway, which I mentioned before, coming down here. And the footpath, which is coming along here and down this edge, and then it actually cuts down this hedgerow here. And as I say, right down to here, just here, there's a bridge over the railway. And this is a small road connecting Grafton Lane to the Callow Road, which is actually closed. It has gates across it. So it's not, you can't take your car along it. I also ought to just mention this was always the site that we most wanted to be in. And we were drawn to this site, particularly by Belmont Haywood Country Park. Now you can't see the park here. This is the bottom edge of it. This is actually Newton Coppice or Newton Meadow. I get confused because it is like it's like a rewilded wood now, and it's quite beautiful, and it is walked tremendously by the local population. So here is Newton Coppice, and we very much hope to access this coppice in terms of our educational offer in the years to come. Just as a matter of interest, this hedge here, which is the boundary between us and Belmont Wanderers, the site of a new build is likely to be here where I'm circling, where there is almost a gap in the hedge. And it will be a shared building between Belmont Wanderers and ourselves. Okay, I'm now going to move on to the next slide, and Louisa is now going to take over.
Hello, good evening, everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our Stronger Towns Fund bid. As Pat said, we've been working for about a year actually on our plans for the Hereford Community Garden. We were working for about a year until October. We were actually asked, we were asked in October to submit a bid to Hereford Stronger Towns Fund. And for many of you may not have heard of the Stronger Towns Fund, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background information. In 2019, 101 towns and small cities across the UK were selected to apply for £25 million of funding each from the Towns Fund, money to boost their economies and support towns to build prosperous futures. These were typically towns that had previously been overlooked for big funding boosts. Hereford was one of them, and the consultancy process to develop a bid took place throughout the autumn, with around 50 potential projects put forward to the Towns Board. The Towns Board are an independent group made up of 15 people selected from across the private, public and community sectors of Hereford. Out of these 50 or so projects, 15 were then taken forward after numerous meetings, and ours happened to be one of them, which of course we're truly, truly delighted. The final bid, comprising of around 15 projects, was forwarded to government at the end of January, just a few days ago, I think it's Thursday it finally went, and Hereford should hear by the end of April how successful it's been. Then we've got a whole year to get our projects further together. So all the individual projects have to submit business cases and financial planning before monies are then released to Hereford. So, as I previously said, we initially applied to the fund in early October, and a few short weeks later, on a cold and pretty miserable November Sunday, myself and Pat met up with Christian Dangerfield, the consultant who was working on the bid, and he came to visit our potential plot of land, or Pat's dream fields, as she's just been showing you. Christian had actually just spent the previous hour visiting Chris Tipping at the Belmont Wanderers Football Club site, who was also submitting an application. And Christian quickly realised our projects neighboured each other, so it made sense to join forces on a shared hub building between the two projects. And very shortly after this, It was further suggested that our two projects come under the shared umbrella of the Skills Foundry bid, which was a joint bid, or is a joint bid, between Edmite, the new university in Hereford, the Hereford College of Art, and Rural Media. A bid that actually includes 4 skills and training sites across the city. One of these they wanted in South Wye, so it made perfect sense again to join forces for the new hub building. So what actually is Growing Local's part of the bid? Well, our bid is threefold, of which we're going to explain a little bit more about. It includes funding to support the development of our community market garden. It also includes funding to establish a new educational garden. And thirdly, it includes funding for our share of the new hub building, which we've jointly called the South Side, in which we propose a field to fork cook school, as well as many other things, which I'll talk about later. So we're now going to talk a little bit more. Well, actually, I've got one more slide to show you, but after that, we'll talk a little bit more about our proposal. As you can see, this is an outline drawing that was actually included in our funding bid, our town investment plan that got sent to government on the 28th of January. I'm just going to point out it's completely not to scale, nor is this drawing definitive in any way. It was purely just to give an idea at this stage of how the project could look. It was drawn up by orphans, the designers appointed at the Towns Fund process, purely to give a visualisation to government of how the overall project would look and could be more easily understood by everybody. I should actually point out as well at this stage that our community market garden plans are pretty unique in the nationwide, and I'm sure will be completely unique in the nationwide Towns Fund programme. I can't imagine there being another project quite like ours. So we felt it was really important to be as visual as we possibly could in our application. So we're now going to talk a little bit more about the component parts of the project. I'm going to hand over to Heather and Denise to talk about the community market garden aspect.
Hi, so it's Denise, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the community market garden. This garden will be run on community supported agriculture principles. It will be a partnership between the growers, the consumers, and the community, where the responsibility of risks and rewards are shared. Simply, this means that what the consumer receives will reflect the time of year and the success of the harvest. As a community garden, we'll be looking to the immediate and wider community for input, ideas, decisions, and participation, and we will encourage everyone who is interested to become a community garden member. Membership will provide access to the garden on volunteer days and socials, plus a standard or large vegetable bag for 50 weeks of the year. The majority of the vegetables will be grown at the community garden, but we will also buy in from local farmers during the Hungry Gap. And by 2026, we want to be providing vegetables for 200 family units. Well, that's our plan. If you didn't want to buy the vegetables, you can still become a member, providing access to the garden on the volunteer days and the socials. And this will be available to anyone who wishes to be involved. For all the memberships, there will be discounted rates so that all members of the community can be involved. The memberships will cover the costs of the grower's wage, administration, and the day-to-day expenditure required to run the garden. And we will have regular open events to welcome the public into the garden and to enjoy community activities. So now we'll just have a quick look at the layout, which is, if Pat can sort of point, there we go. This is a very rough diagram just to give an idea of what we could be looking at. We will cultivate a small area to start, and then we'll increase to 6 acres over about 5 years. And growing will start as soon as we have access to the land and have a completed garden design. So there'll be, we're hoping that there'll be a staff building, and there'll be cold stores, there'll be compost toilets, polytunnels, and the orchard will have heritage varieties of fruit. The plan shown here today is only really a rough idea, and and there will be plenty of opportunities for the input from anyone wanting to be involved. It's just to give you a visual. The garden will be accessible for everyone, and therefore we will also seek expert advice from wheelchair users to ensure optimum accessibility. And now I'll pass it on to Heather.
Wonderful, hello. And if we can just go to the next slide. Wonderful, yes. First of all, these 4 photographs are all taken from our present growing local Court Farm garden at Court Farm, Tillington, that has been running for 11 years. And we will hope to replicate this garden at the Community Market Garden at the south side of Hereford and have the same level of its success. Community supported agriculture is already occurring in many areas around the country, and the CSA organisation will provide a mentor for us who will assist us during this coming year before we employ a full-time grower. We hope to employ a full-time grower for the 2022 season. And we will need a grower, a professional grower, to enable the garden to run smoothly and to ensure the vegetable and produce commitment to the members. Growing will start as soon as we have access to the land, and we hope that that will occur this summer, during this summer. Our absolute priority for our new garden is soil health and the health of the environment that we will be working in. We will be chemical free. We will use agroecological methods. We are interested in permaculture and no-dig methods, all ways to increase productivity, the health of the soil, the health of the ecosystem, and to provide us with the healthiest of food. We will be seeking your input in the areas that many of you have expertise in, and both expertise and specific interest. And we will be looking for the following things from you, hopefully. Expertise in the assessment of the soil and land for growing, or an interest in the design and layout of the growing area. Expertise in agroecological, permaculture and no-dig methods of cultivation. Covered growing, propagation, and any expertise in orchard growing. In the summer and autumn, we will want help with moving equipment from our present garden, with building the garden, with fencing, with security. And we will want a lot of volunteer gardeners. We will want volunteers to run the socials, and we will wish you to sign up as members and to join our community garden. Thank you. And over to the next person.
Lou.
Hi, back to me to talk.
Yeah, the educational garden.
Yeah, the second funding area that we're looking at as part of our proposal is for a new educational garden. As Pat's already said, we've actually had an educational garden at Court Farm for 11 years. We've had over 9,000 children, families and adults that we've worked with over those years. And we're looking to set up a garden pretty similar to our Court Farm garden, because it really did work for us, but probably about twice the size, so that we can accommodate bigger group sizes and bigger class sizes. Just like our existing garden, the new space is going to have polytunnels, it'll have sheds, a central seating area, and lots of interesting raised beds of different sizes and structures. It will be accessible for everybody, for all ages and all abilities. Our new garden will also have a bigger undercover areas to shelter from the sun and the rain. Believe me, we quite often need it from the rain or the snow. Yeah, an outdoor cooking area and fire pit and permanent hand washing and vegetable washing areas. It'll also have really strong visuals everywhere, displays and signage to encourage independent visits outside of school time, to encourage children to bring their families at weekends and holidays to come and have a look at what they've been doing. I should also point out that all the pictures in front of you are our actual existing Court Farm garden. Admittedly, it doesn't quite look like that right now. And there are also lots of workshops that we do run, and the same with the next slide, I think that Pat's going to go on to now. They're all workshops that we've held over the last few years. So what will we offer? What education will we offer in our garden? Essentially the same programme that we currently offer, but to more schools, to more families, and also with a few new and enhanced workshops. We'll continue with our successful schools programme of gardening and harvest cook sessions. We'll continue with our cook workshops in the educational garden and in the Southside Centre. All these workshops will also be available to community groups like Brownies, Cubs, Scouts or Guides. We'll also offer smaller group sessions for SEN or nurture classes. We'll also offer a programme of weekends and holiday workshops for children and families, including a summer holiday scheme for children. Additionally to our current educational offer, visiting groups will be able to take part in farm tours around the site. They'll be able to visit the community market garden and the orchards, and children will be able to take part in wildlife workshops, art sessions, forest school type activities. The food educational programme will be fully integrated with the new Southside Cook School. During all cook workshops, visitors will get to pick the produce they cook with directly from the garden. We want everyone to understand and connect with where their food comes from, how it grows, when it's in season, and how you pick it. I'm now going to hand over to Pat to talk a little bit more about the educational garden.
Yeah, I mean, this, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, is actually a plan of the new educational garden that we will be building. It is incredibly similar to the garden we already have. It's very similar. It's a plan that works for managing classes, but it's twice the size of our current garden, and it's 1,600 square meters as opposed to 800 square meters. Just going on to the left-hand side here, the adult education. Regarding the adult education offer, we are really keen that the community growing message is shared far and wide through apprenticeships and recognised qualifications, NVQs, and possibly other recognised qualifications. There's a severe lack of horticultural training in Herefordshire, and we seek to change that. Our commitment to retraining will be met by our short course offer as well, our BBO and Lando offer that will further grow. We know that we will offer the other organisations offering the accessing the site, and I mean Herefordshire College of Art and Rural Media, an enormously inspiring space that surely must get the creative juices flowing. I'm also extremely excited that by partnering with a new university, NMIT, we can be at the forefront of developing technology and growing methods that ensure we are working with rather than against nature, improving our soils, improving the natural environment around us, making sure we are carbon neutral. And fantastically, all of this expertise is going to be in a public space to be shared. I'm now going to move on to Lou, who's going to talk about the Southside Centre.
Hello again. So our final part of our funding, and the biggest part of our funding, is actually to fund our hub building, which, as I said, we've called the Southside after many deliberations and many name changes. We all decided on the Southside. As I said, it's going to be the new hub building that will be shared with NMIT and Belmont Wanderers. accessible on our side of the project essentially as a cook school, on Belmont Wanderers and Enmite side as a sports and skills centre, offering a package of courses including Enmite skills builder programmes. The pictures that you see here are purely just some examples of how the building could potentially look. Obviously, we haven't got that far in any drawing designs yet, but as you can see, they're all pretty cool buildings. What's key to the project is that we have a sustainable build. We're truly hoping that Archetype will be appointed to design it, not only because Archetype are local, they're originally from Hereford and they have offices in Hereford, but they so happen to be the UK's leading architects of sustainable public buildings. This is really important to our project. Their local projects, in case you don't know, have included the Records Office at Rotherwas and the new St Michael's Hospice building. Their buildings truly are iconic. We really, really hope that they will design our new hub building. We go on to the next slide, Pat.
Oh, hang on.
So what are we going to do in our side of the south side? Well, we're going to have a cook school. We really want to be my dream. We're going to have a cook school accessible for everybody. What are we going to offer? We're going to offer the primary and secondary school cook workshops, just as we do now. We're going to offer after school clubs. We've trialed these and worked with schools on our healthy dinners clubs. We're going to offer weekend opportunities, for example, Saturday brunch clubs, pizza days, family cook days, children's weekends, workshops, holiday schemes. There'll be adult cook clubs, short courses, and a private cook school and supper club to generate income. We've got lots of ideas. These are not definitive. I'm sure as the building emerges, new ideas, new cook clubs, events will occur to us. And as the building takes shape and with all the community consultations that we'll do, I'm sure we'll come up with some new ideas. But at the cook school's heart is our strong ethos of field to fork cookery. Everything we produce, we'll use our own fruits, our own vegetables and herbs, all freshly picked as part of the session. All our other produce will be sourced as locally as possible too. Our meats, eggs, cheeses will be sourced from Herefordshire. We want our current and future generations to truly connect with their food, to shop for locally grown or produced food, to know what's in season, to be able to cook from scratch, to budget their family meals, to understand how to prepare vegetables, how to make a sauce, how to butcher meat, or use up leftovers, or even bake a loaf of bread. These are vital life skills that over the generations seem to have been lost to so many. So what else are we going to have? What else is going to be at the south side? It isn't just going to be a cook school. I think we could move on to the next slide now, Pat, please. Yeah. So as well as being a cook school, we're going to hopefully have 2 further teaching classrooms. These will be used for a variety of uses. They'll be used for our horticultural adult education. They could be used for art workshops, theory sessions, a dry area to shelter in bad weather. Believe me, we've had quite a few very, very wet and windy and cold gardening workshops where we would benefit from having some shelter. And the centre will also be used for a whole variety of private hire uses to bring in additional income. The south side would also house a catering kitchen to cater for all our events and also all other local events that want us to cater for them, using Herefordshire produce, using our own fruits and vegetables, of course, too. There'll be an on-site farm shop, and we're also hoping to have a cafe to overlook the gardens with inside and outside seating. I actually found this picture on the left on the internet, and I just really like the look of that cafe. That's the sort of look we're after, integrated into our garden. This could really work. So there'll also be a wealth of courses and educational opportunities on site by partners in our project, from Enmite, from Belmont Wanderers, Rural Media, or the Art College. But this building at its heart will be a community building. It'll be owned by the community and it'll be for the use of the community. I'm going to hand you back now to Pat, I think. Is that right? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to just talk about the timeline now as we see it. So I'm just going to give you a minute just to read through that, and I'll just pick out one or two things after you've had a chance to do that. I mean, as you can see, this project is going to take several years before it's completed. But the key events that loom before us at the moment are one, the asset transfer of the land from the council to Growing Local. And we know this might take up to 6 months. As soon as that has happened, we will need to get the garden growing, and we need to get the garden growing before the Stronger Towns funds are released. And hence the need, as you can see here, for crowdfunding to start the initial work. Towards the end of this year, the autumn winter 21, providing we've secured enough funding to get going, we will need an army of volunteers to help with the build. We really want to have the educational garden open for business spring 22 and be able to offer our first crop shares summer 22. You may have questions about that, so please put them into the chat. I'm going to move on now to Heather.
Hello. Hello. Now, this is over to you, and we are very, very grateful for you all joining us tonight. This is very much a community garden, so we want your input. I have mentioned some of the things you can do already to help us with the garden, and we will write those into an email or newsletter following this meeting, so to contact you with that, and we will keep you informed of all that we are doing and asking of other people. We want your ideas to enable this project to be as inclusive as possible for all Herefordshire residents. When we have access to the land, we will want to hold an open garden event, as long as COVID allows, which we hope it will by the summer. And this will be to invite you all and immediate Southside community to come and participate and to tell us what you would like to see and do in the garden. We will need some help with this event. Could you help with organising it or leafleting the neighbourhood? We will also need help to fundraise and to finance both this and the starting up of the garden during the latter part of this year. Can you help us with this? In the next month or so, we will be establishing a membership sign up, and you will be able to sign up as a community garden member with a chance to register interest in future vegetable shares. We will also be informing you further about the overall governance of the project as well. So there's plenty for us all to get involved in, I hope. Back to you, Pat.
Thank you, Heather. And just to end with a little reminder of the major barriers we foresaw a year ago. At that time, we were saying, is this what we want? Well, we've definitely moved on that. This is what we want. We want a community market garden for Hereford. And this is, I think, is the way things are going in terms of people want to have better access to their local food. We've moved the project forward. We've located land, and we're in the process. Well, we are what we are, who we are, and we will be drawing on our local community to help drive the project. We have, I think, moved mountains in terms of hopefully finding fundings and investment in the development land and infrastructure. I think the final point on here is how do we do this without impacting on other local box schemes? Well, it was Little Markle Farm Shop actually who took over the box scheme that we ran for 10 years. And we know that the box schemes that other local farms are operating are absolutely full to the gunnels. It's very difficult to now get a space on a box scheme. And because the demand, especially through this year, has increased tremendously. And I think it's made people realise and value their local produce and access to local food. And we've got to be part of that. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to take away from the other growers around us. We want to add to that. Now, I don't know how many questions we've got in the chat, quite a few, I think. Oh yes, I can see more coming in. I think that possibly there's going to be too many for us to answer now, and it would probably be better that we actually go away and consider your questions and answer them fully. We will hold another meeting like this in the not too distant future. We want to keep the momentum going now. As I hope our presentation, we are excited, incredibly excited about the Hereford Community Market Garden. We hope we've excited you. It's incredible. We're not very experienced at delivering Zoom meetings like this. Hopefully our excitement and our determination to make this work have really come through. We will make this happen. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry I can't see you. I'm staring at a blank computer, but it will be so good for us to meet at some point later in the year, hopefully when we're able to meet up outside, socially distancing, in our new community garden. So thank you so much again. And as I say, we will get back to you. And we will make sure that you can see this again or pass it on to your friends and neighbours, the recording of this PowerPoint. So thank you so much again. And Tony's, oh, I've got so many questions coming through. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye. In fact, I
was just going to say thank you to everyone for listening to us, and I can see there's some fantastic comments, more comments than questions actually, and I'm just had a little scroll through and there's some really lovely comments being made. Thank you so much. You know, it's nice, it's lovely to hear how passionate everybody else feels, because we truly are. And
we are going to share the chat and the questions and the comments so that you can all see them via an email. So thank you so much again, and I will, and if you have any more comments, by the way, even when this is finished, please do email us. We will get back to you. Okay, thanks again and goodbye. Bye everybody.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.